Hello and welcome. My name is Vineet Malhotra and you're watching NewsX. Let's take a look at some of the top stories from today. Well, talks between Iran and the US over potential nuclear deal have started in Rome as top delegations from either country meet amidst concerns of escalation. Meanwhile, Israel has not ruled out an attack on Iran's nuclear activities. The US has offered Russia sanctions relief as part of a Ukraine ceasefire deal. President Donald Trump has confirmed that the US may walk away from Russia-Ukraine peace talks if no imminent progress is made. US President Donald Trump says that nice conversations have been had with China amid ongoing trade tensions and tit-for-tat tariff action. Meanwhile, Trump spoke with UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer over ongoing and productive trade talks. Local media sources in Gaza say that at least 64 people have been killed in Israeli attacks since Friday morning. The UN has issued an urgent warning over food supplies after Hamas rejected a recent hostage release ceasefire proposal. The Hezbollah chief has said that they will not let anyone disarm it amid pressure from Washington. Meanwhile, Israeli strikes have been reported in southern Lebanon, leading to the death of 2 people according to local media. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has confirmed the ousting of IRS temporary head Gary Shipley. Reports suggest that Shipley, who was only appointed on Tuesday, was placed by Elon Musk. Michael Faulkender has been named as the replacement. The Trump administration has asked for records from Harvard on foreign funding and ties. It comes after $2.3 billion of federal funding was cut from the university over pro-Palestinian protest on campuses. A U.S. judge has halted Trump's plan for rapid deportation to third countries. Meanwhile, a U.S. senator who visited a man mistakenly reported to El Salvador says he is traumatized but has been moved to a new prison. All right, the justices issued the decision ordering the government not to deport any detainees from the group until further notice. Conservative justices Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito, however, disagreed with the ruling. The ACLU, which is the American Civil Liberties Union, rushed to file emergency motion saying some men were already on buses set for removal under a rarely used 1798 law, the Alien Enemies Act, typically invoked during wartime. The case puts a spotlight on tensions between the executive and judicial branches, with critics warning it could trigger a constitutional showdown. President Trump, elected on a promise to crack down on illegal immigration, has argued the law gives him broad powers to deport suspected gang members, specifically targeting alleged members of the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua, which his administration calls a terrorist group. Meanwhile, U.S. Senator Chris Van Hollen has detailed his recent meeting with Kilmar Abrego Garcia, a citizen of El Salvador, who was wrongfully deported from the U.S. back to El Salvador. Van Hollen described how Garcia was traumatized by his time at the Seacott prison, but has since been moved to a different facility. Here's what U.S. Senator Chris Van Hollen had to say.
He said he was not afraid of the other prisoners in his immediate cell, but that he was traumatized by being at Seacott and fearful of many of the prisoners in other cell blocks who called out to him and taunted him in various ways.
All right, Gautam Mukherjee, senior journalist, joining us at this point in time. Gautam, obviously, there is been a misuse of powers when you talk about deporting a lot of these immigrants. But the fact of the matter is that Donald Trump's premise for coming back to power for a second time was based on putting out some of these illegal immigrants. What do you have to say?
Well, I think in the main, he is doing it exactly as promised. This particular incident is to do with one side calling this person a criminal, a drug runner, and so forth, and the other saying that he's innocent and should be repatriated. So this is up in the air. It's not as if it's clear cut, and it was a case of, a mistaken deportation. As for the others, all of them are illegal immigrants, and a large number of them are from India, and they have been sent back, and some more are going to be sent back. He is doing exactly what he said he would do, and you can't hold it against him. Now, as far as the methodology that these people use in terms of shackling them and making sure that they are in no position to try and either revolt or hijack the plane or any such thing, that is their procedure. They tend to handcuff people as soon as they are arrested in any case. Beneath.
Well, there is also this talk about a constitutional showdown in the United States as a result of misusing an ancient law. Is that something which could spell trouble for the American president?
Well, I think there is a lot of pushback from the deep state as well as from those who are inclined towards the last regime, the Democrats. And there are 70 or 80 cases already filed against the Trump administration. I don't think they are daunted by it. Surely some of them will go against them, but I think they will persist in a lot of the things that they do, with maybe slight modifications should special provisions go against them. But it's not going to turn them off, and they are not afraid of the court cases that are coming their way. They are not going to slow down. They're not going to stop.
Gautam, appreciate you joining us. Thank you so much. Moving on, China's shipbuilding industry is pushing back against new U.S. port fees targeting China-linked vessels. The measures signed by President Donald Trump earlier this week aim to boost U.S. shipbuilding and curb China's influence in global shipping. The China Association of the National Shipbuilding Industry called the move short-sighted, blaming U.S. protectionism and not China for the decline of America's shipbuilding sector. The group warned that the restrictions could disrupt global maritime trade, raise shipping costs, and worsen inflation in the United States. China's Ministry of Commerce condemned the fees as discriminatory, calling them a violation of market principles. The government says it will take all necessary steps to protect its interests. The U.S. later softened the order, exempting certain domestic exporters and vessel operators in the Great Lakes, the Caribbean, and the U.S. territory. Still, tensions remain high in what has become a broader trade war affecting billions in global commerce. And Dr. Satoru Nagao, fellow at the Hudson Institute, is joining us at this point in time. Dr. Nagao, appreciate you being here. Obviously, China is peeved at the fact that everything related to its trade with the Americans is finding a tariff block. Is this likely to fade away, or do you think that this tension, this friction between these two giants is here to stay?
Yes, this is very interesting because when we check the purpose of the Trump administration tariff policy, indeed China is a priority target. Especially the Trump administration focusing on iron, steel, and car, aluminum, and now shipbuilding as a target of tariff. And in the near future, semiconductor will follow. View from this lineup, indeed, these products are related with military power, hardware. When we check the U.S. trade, indeed, the service sector is very influential. Despite this line of the product Trump administration focusing on is not directly linked with the service sector. This is linked with the manufacture sector, especially directly linked with the weapon industry. So that's why purpose of the Trump administration is indeed clear. This is Cold War between US and China, and the decoupling process is ongoing, and especially the military power is important. So that's why this shipbuilding related matter is not just only the economic or business matter, but also the security matter, I think.
And Dr. Nagao, what do you think Trump is going to do at this point in time? We just heard from the American government saying that all's hunky-dory. There are conversations going on and there's something positive that's come out. Do you think that Trump is right, that this positivity may spell into some sort of a good news for China and USA relationship?
View from the negotiation style of the Trump administration, firstly intimidation, after that deal. So when we check the US-China competition, of course, view from the long-term process, Trump administration want to decouple with China's economy, but indeed 245% or 145% tariff is a little bit too high to deal with in the short term. So that's why indeed they cannot continue this level of the tariff for a long time, even if they want to decouple. So that's why this is the process of the negotiation. Firstly, this high tariff is one kind of the intimidation to deal. So now Trump administration is raising pressure to China. But in the near future, one kind of the ceasefire will come and adjust the situation to promote business. But in the long run, steadily the tariff is increasing against China and to decouple. That is we can expect as a scenario what will happen.
Well, China has also urged the Americans to be far-sighted and not look at all of this in the short run. Considering the fact that the American economy is a consumer economy and the boom that we have seen in the American economy in the last few decades has also been because of cheap Chinese goods. Do you think that the American economy will be able to absorb this kind of a shocker, or there will be telltale signs of a recession?
Of course, 245 or 145, this kind of the percentage of tariff is too high, not only for the Chinese industry, but also the US industry, I think. So this is just a short term. In the long run, it is a little bit difficult to continue. But at the same time, view from the purpose in the long-term process, the increase the tariff is, of course, it will happen, I believe, but not like the 245 or 145, that kind of level, I believe.
Dr. Nagao, appreciate you joining us. Thank you so much. Well, in a deadly airstrike in Yemen, US military attacked on a key oil terminal controlled by the Houthi rebels. The strikes have killed at least 80 people and wounded 171 others. The attack targeting the Ras Isa terminal on Yemen's Red Sea coast was part of US efforts to cut off resources funding the Iran-backed Houthis. The US military insists the strikes aim to cripple the group's fuel supply and called it a necessary measure against terrorist activities. However, the Houthis have condemned the strikes as a war crime, claiming the terminal was a civilian facility. Let's listen in to what was said.
هو ميناء مدني ميناء نفطي مدني يتم وصول السفن البترولية والمازوت والغاز ويتوزع على جميع أنحاء الجمهورية اليمنية. ليس ميناء عسكريا ولسنا حمقى أو أغبياء أن نذهب إلى الموانئ بقواتنا وأسلحتنا.
And this comes amid an ongoing conflict that has seen intensified US and Houthi actions, including missile and drone attacks on Israel and US military assets. The strikes have sparked protests in the Yemeni capital of Sana'a, while Iran condemned the attacks as barbaric. And after the strikes, Houthis announced that they will retaliate against the United States. Let's listen in to what was said.
ونجحت دفاعاتنا الجوية في إسقاط طائرة أمريكية النوع MQ-9 أثناء قيامها بتنفيذ أعمال عدائية في أجواء محافظة صنعاء، وذلك بصاروخ أرض جو محلي الصنع. إن الحشد العسكري الأمريكي واستمرار العدوان على بلدنا لن يؤدي إلا إلى المزيد من عمليات التصدي والاستهداف والاشتباك والمواجهة.
All right, Mr. Yossi Cooper-Wasser, Israeli intelligence and security expert, is joining us at this point in time. Thank you so much, Yossi, for being here. Well, what do you make of this new pledge by the Houthis saying that they will retaliate towards the Americans? The Americans have given them a warning on a number of occasions in the past as well. Why should this come as a surprise?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. And secondly, yes, the Houthis want to keep fighting, and we have to be prepared and charge them with heavy prices for their intention to keep harming the free maritime movement in the Red Sea and to hit Israel and to hit the Americans who are trying to protect the freedom of maritime movement in the maritime shipping in the Red Sea. And we see that in spite of the heavy losses that they suffer, they insist on continuing doing that. So they probably have to pay a heavier price for them being convinced to stop it.
Well, do you think it is possible for the Americans to bring this arbitrary, rampage that the Houthis have been on to a complete halt?
Yes, it's possible, but it's not easy. And we know that the Americans are in that for a month now, and they probably need more time. At the end of the day, with all the damage inflicted on the Houthis day in, day out, there's going to come a day when they are going to say enough is enough. The people in the areas controlled by the Houthis are going to say so. And we see that they are getting weaker every day. And this even serves as an incentive for their opponents from within Yemen to try and consider the possibility of taking over some of their territory, including some of their ports. So the situation is very problematic, and I guess that eventually, when there's enough pressure put on them, they will reconsider their policy.
Well, so, there is also conversations going on, with the Americans. There are conversations going on in Rome at this point in time as well. Iran is also a substantial part of this entire conflict. Their nuclear capabilities is also something which Donald Trump feels need to be cut down, because he thinks, and he's of the opinion, that they're extremists, and no extremists can have access to any kind of a nuclear arsenal. Do you think that these conversations will also have some sort of a cascading effect on how the Houthis and how these fringe terrorist organizations, these proxy organizations, have been functioning?
Yes, in two senses. First of all, the American attack on the Houthis is in a way a message to the Iranians that, look, if you insist on moving forward with the nuclear project, you might be facing a similar fate like that of the Houthis, and even worse than that, so take this into consideration. And on the other hand, for the Iranians, they want to make sure that the Houthis keep fighting, because this for them serves as a message to the United States. There is a price to pay for putting pressure on Iran. So it's both sides are interested in the continuation of the fight between America and the Houthis. And of course, the focus is more on what's happening in Rome this time exactly, when the Iranians have to realize that if they insist on keeping the nuclear project active, as they had in the last couple of years after the JCPOA, this is going to be costly and eventually may lead to a military offensive against their nuclear infrastructure, which is something they want to avoid. And we shall see if this is going to be good enough in order to convince the Iranians to accept a deal that would really put an end to the nuclear project, or if they're going to insist on keeping the nuclear project alive, and then we'll see what the Americans are going to do about that.
And so how is Israel looking at these negotiations, as well as this escalation of war and hostilities between the Americans and the Houthis?
Well, basically, we trust the United States to try to reach a satisfactory result of all these events, to convince the Houthis to stop launching missiles in our direction and to interfere with the freedom of maritime movement in the Red Sea, and to make sure that the Iranians give up on their nuclear project in a way that would not form any threat of them having a nuclear arsenal in the future. We trust the Americans to do that. But we trust and we suspect. That's, I would say, that the situation. We trust the Americans, but we suspect that they might be tempted by the Iranians, who are very good negotiators, just like the Americans, to accept something that is short of what needs to be reached in order to satisfy the United States and Israel.
All right.
This suspicion is in the back of our minds all the time.
Sir, appreciate you joining us. Thank you so much for speaking with us. Moving on, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is heading to Saudi Arabia next week. The agenda is to boost trade and investment, enhancing energy cooperation, strengthening defense ties, and reviving the stalled India, Middle East, Europe economic corridor. Prime Minister Modi is expected to hold talks with Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman in Jeddah. The visit comes at a time of regional volatility, from ongoing Red Sea tensions involving the Houthis to the aftermath of the Gaza conflict and broader US-Iran dynamics. Saudi Arabia was India's third largest source of crude oil and LPG in 23-24. With energy needs growing, India is keen to secure more favorable deals. Bilateral trade between the two countries stood at nearly $43 billion last year, with India exporting over $11 billion worth of goods. Defense cooperation is also gaining momentum. After years of limited engagement, the two sides have now conducted 2 joint naval exercises. Prime Minister Modi's visit is expected to add fresh momentum to a rapidly evolving partnership. And moving on, 21 humanoid robots raced alongside thousands of runners in Beijing's Yizhuang half marathon on Saturday. The robots from companies like Droid VP and Notix Robotics varied in size from just over a meter to nearly 6 feet tall. Some robots wore running shoes, while others sported headbands or boxing gloves. They were supported by human trainers through the 21-kilometer course. The winning robot, Tiangong Ultra, finished in 2 hours and 40 minutes. By comparison, the men's human winner clocked just over an hour. Officials compared the event to a race car competition, emphasizing teamwork and tech. China sees robotics as a future economic driver, though some experts remain skeptical of its industrial promise. And Christians around the world are celebrating Easter Sunday, a day of hope, renewal, and resurrection. People are gathering in churches, homes, and public places for prayers, family meals, and celebrations to honor this important day. Easter marks the resurrection of Jesus Christ, symbolizing victory over death and reminding people of light after darkness. In Vienna, the Easter markets are filled with colorful eggs, a tradition that adds to the spring celebrations in the city. At the Vatican, the Christmas is being held, a special Holy Week ceremony to remember the Passion of Christ, His death and resurrection. In Tijuana, Mexico, migrants at the U.S. border joined in Holy Week celebrations, listening to prayers and taking part in the foot washing tradition. Well, that's all we have for today. We will continue to bring you more updates from around the world. Thank you for watching.